Alright, so we got a 2013 F150, and we are going to do a front brake pad and rotor change on it. So, front brakes. We're getting like a pulsating in the pedal, and you can kind of feel the whole truck kind of pumping when we put the brakes on. I assume it's the front. I put it up, I spun all the wheels, and this front wheel here would get tight and loose and tight and loose. So I assume that this was the one that was warped. But I'm going to change both of them because it's good practice to change both, at least on one axle. So took the caliper off, took the wheel off, and the pads are, as you can see, jammed in the holder. So that's pretty much what the problem was. You get rust here between the hardware and stuff, and it pinches the pads so that it jams them in, and then it won't let them go. And then they get stuck up against the rotor, they heat up, and it warps the rotor. So we're going to have to take obviously I took the caliper off, we're going to take the pads out, and we're going to have to clean inside these grooves here, and get it free again. So this is the main problem. I mean, you can see it's that hard stuck in there. I'm pushing on that pretty good. Yeah, those are in there. I'm going to repair this side, and then I'll give you a video of the other side so you can get a whole kind of walkthrough. Alright, first thing we do is take the wheel off. 21mm socket. Guess if you get one of these covers, you just get a pry bar in there against the wheel and pop it off. Okay, so the caliper slide nuts here are 14mm, I think. Let's see, we're going the right way. Yep, 14. Take them off. So we will try to get you out. We'll take our screwdriver and we'll get in the caliper here and then go into the rotor. You see I got them holes in the rotor and the groove. So basically you're going to come through the caliper and get in that groove there and then pry the caliper over. So that's what I'm doing here. So you got two pistons, so you want to go kind of even. If you get two screwdrivers, that'd probably help. So what I'm doing is I'm retracting the pistons. And I'm dropping my camera. All right. So now that's retracted. Anyway. So there's that. Take your caliper out. Kind of hang it to the side. You don't want it hanging off of the hose. Try to put it in a place you can still see. So you got the pad holder, caliper, bracket bolts. These two here. Those are 21mm also. And we'll take those out. See if, yeah, these pads over here are jammed right in there too. Pull that off. If you're lucky like I am, your rotor will just fall off. If not, there are threaded bolt holes in it, so you can drive them off. Just gotta stick a couple bolts in those holes. You can see them, and there's two of them. I don't know what the bolts are. They're probably metric. I'll try to get you the size. But, so yeah. So take the rotor off, kind of tie this up out of the way, and then we'll clean up the pad holder and change the pads and the hardware. Alright, so 3/8 bolt fits in there. You got one here and one here. And you just tighten them up till they hit your till they hit the flange here. And just tighten them evenly, and it should pull the rotor right off. You won't have to worry about beating it off with a hammer or anything. Alright, so I'm gonna get these pads out. It was free and clear now. It's stuck. Move your hardware. Yeah. So all the rust is in here. We gotta scrape all that out. Just sandblast it if you have a sandblaster or any type of other type of rust removal, but I do not have it here, so I'm going to use a file. Okay, so that's one side. You're gonna do the same thing to the other side. All right, here's that. So you want to make sure your guide pins move freely, because these can seize up too, and then hold the caliper apart, and then you can get uneven wear on your pads, where it'll wear like one side and not the other because it's holding either caliper out or in, or one way or the other. So make sure they move freely. Take some of our grease. We're gonna put it all on these freshly unpainted areas. Maybe. I don't give you much, do they? That'll help protect the area from having the hardware get that rust jacking. Is that? Take our new hardware. About 4 of them. So the hooks went in. The little hook was on the inside, and then the spring-loaded tab was on the outside. So these are all the same size. They seem to be. I'm not putting lubricant on the actual slide itself because dirt and stuff kind of sticks to it. Oh no! And I think I can make it worse. So, inner left hand, outer. I don't know if it makes as big of a difference. Alright, so looks like you got inner and outer, right hand, left hand. This guy says outer on it. This guy says inner LH. So buttons Here's your inner, or your outer. Come on. Yeah. Make sure they move around freely and fall right out. Well, don't fall right out, but that was a joke. So they slide pretty easy. Put this guy in. There you go. That moves pretty good. So if you got jamming and they get stuck like they did before, then you might have to clean your guides a little bit better and kind of make it happen. So here's that. So you're gonna want to clean up your mounting surface here, where the rotor sits up against. If you get rust or anything in there, then it's going to keep it from tightening up right, and it's going to loosen up, and it won't run straight, so it'll wobble. So you want to make sure that's all clean. And there ain't anything on there. So if you got a lot of rust or something, you can use like a cookie wheel or a file or something of that nature and just somehow clean it off. This one's pretty clean. It runs, the rotor runs on this edge and on this edge. So if you have a little bit of rust in here, as long as it's below these two surfaces, it shouldn't be a big deal, because it's, like I say, it's not pushing. The rotor isn't sitting on that surface, it's sitting on the two outer ones. There's like a relief cut in there. So that's part number for the rotors. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah. And that's part number for the pads. So what I'm do is I'm gonna take the rotor out, clean it up with some basically brake clean solvent. Clean the rotor. And just get the areas there. Whoop! Whoop! Hey! Yes! Right. So, clean that off. Use some of this on the club face here. Keep this rotor from sticking. Works pretty good. Spray it on, nice and easy. So, right up there. Take some blue thread lock, put it on our caliper pad holder. Slip our pad holder back on. We'll put our pad holder back on, and we'll torque these bolts to 184 foot-pounds. Probably want to replace these bolts. That's what the manual says, is to, well, not specifically the manual, but what I've seen online and stuff, it says to replace the bolt or use new bolts. I don't know if you need to. I don't think you do, but it's a risk you'll have to take. If you want to get new bolts, get new bolts. If not, don't. It's up to you. I don't think we're gonna need new bolts, just because, I mean, then they're big enough. I'm pretty confident they can handle the torque. But just as a disclaimer, might be something you want to be prepared for. Take a caliper, squeeze our pads back together. I took some of that grease and I put it on the caliper piston faces that push up against the pads. These ones got like a, I don't know, like a shim on it. So you probably, I don't know if you need that on there or not, but I put it on there. If you had just a regular metal pad, you'd want to put the grease on there, but because it's got that, I don't know, that shim on it, it probably won't be a problem, but keeps it from like corroding and squeaking as much. Caliper slide pin bolts will be torqued to 27 foot-pounds. So those are torqued. We shall put the wheel back on. Now when I torque these, I'm going to go through a hole in the wheel here. I'm going to go up against the bottom of the caliper to keep it from rotating. If you're on the other side, then you go on the top of the caliper. So that's how I'm going to hold the wheel from turning. So, I torque the wheel to 148 foot-pounds, or the lug nuts to 148 foot-pounds. I'm going to put a cap back on. Make sure you pump up your brakes before you take it for a ride, because you don't want it to get away from you. It'll take a couple of pumps to kind of squeeze the caliper back closed on the pads. So if you went to just drive it away, you'd push it and it would just go to the floor. You'd have no brakes. So that's something to keep in mind. All right. Firm again. So what I like to do is, sometimes you get a caliper that will hang up. I like to push the brakes on and then come by and turn the wheels that I changed the pads on to make sure that I don't have a caliper hanging up. So see how it spins freely. So sometimes you get corrosion and stuff around the piston of the caliper, and when you push it back in, it jams into the seal. And then because all the corrosion's on the end, because it starts off in there, and as it moves its way out, it starts to corrode behind the seal there, if there's a hole or anything in it. And then the corrosion will be on the end. So when you push it back in to put the thicker pads in there, you basically jam the corrosion part back into the caliper, and then it gets kind of seized in there. So when you push the pads out, or when you push the brakes, it pushes out, but it doesn't go anywhere. It just stays there because all that crap's jammed inside the seal. So I always like to make sure that my wheels aren't hanging up after I do a brake job, because sometimes it happens. It's kind of hit or miss whether it will or not, but I didn't have it happen for a long time. Then all of a sudden it was happening every time I did a brake job. So anyway, hope that can help somebody. If not, let me know what I did wrong, and I thank you for watching.